What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shantines.
What's up?
What's going on? And Daniel Acevedo.
How's it going, guys?
What's going on, sir? So welcome to Monday's episode. So as promised, this is the CrowdStrike episode, people. I put it on social media and we got to talk about it. It's still happening. But please continue to tune in throughout the week. So Monday and Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays Ask a CISSP. This one should actually be Roger White. So I keep flip-flopping that episode. It's going to happen, people. All right, it's recorded. I just have to put it out there. And then Friday's everything else. So movies, books, games, all that good stuff. But without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
So you say this is the CrowdStrike episode, like did something important happen with CrowdStrike or something? Like, yeah, you said it D as if, like I'm not tracking, but okay, yeah. But so this one comes from darkreading.com, written by Christina Beek. The title of this one is Buggy CrowdStrike EDR Update Crashes Windows Systems Worldwide. All right, so even if you're not in the know when it comes to cybersecurity, like your life has been affected by this. If you were flying, if you were a consumer trying to go purchase things even, right? So Microsoft, right? We know they got, I'm going to say, I'm throwing a guess out here, right? Like 85% of the world operates off Microsoft products, right? It's a guess. I don't have any facts to back that up, but almost everything we do, Microsoft is involved, right? So CrowdStrike is a software company that does a lot of the cloud computing out there, right? And this engineering team had an issue where they caused a massive disruption to Windows-based systems, right? So they were pushing out an update that had it was a bug in the memory scanning prevention policy, right? Now, what they say is, because when I initially started hearing about this, I was like, why did they not test this? Like, how was this not tested? That was my first thought that came to mind. Well, apparently they did. This was just unforeseen circumstances that came from it, right? So but here's my thing. If you're testing properly, you have to simulate the environments that they're going to be in, right? Mm-hmm. You have to simulate that environment. You have to try to, and I realize it's not something you can do all the time. You have to try to simulate things that you just can't foresee, right? But this just sounds like poor QC, poor testing to me, right? The fact that they were like, okay, well, we did test it, but, we didn't see these actions in our test environment. Well, but that's on you, right? But here's the thing. They rolled it back, right? So even with the rollback, right, which is what you almost always do when you have a faulty patch or you're trying to push something that doesn't go according to plan. Even with that, it wasn't as easy as just rolling back and everything returned to normal, right? So this had far reaching consequences to it, right? So I don't remember which one of you guys sent this out, but it was the flight tracker map that had, what was it, Delta, American, and United, which is like the big three. American. Yeah, and it showed the flight maps and everything, and then as this CrowdStrike bug was happening, like it looked like a bunch of bees just all over, a map of the United States. And as this was happening, like you could just see it going down. I can imagine it was not quite like, but almost like 9/11. You know what I'm saying? Because on 9/11, when like they were grounding everything, like that's what started happening. And again, this is just the major three, right? Because I'm not going to say every airline was affected, but the big three were affected, right? And they have a lot of the air traffic out there, but you have some smaller airlines that they were fine. They even had some overseas, like Ryanair, which is one of the big ones overseas, like in Europe. They were having some issues as well, but this hurt a lot of people.
Right. There was a meme. So I don't mean to cut you off, but there was I had to bring it up. There's a funny meme. It was Southwest. It was like a fake advertisement saying that we're still flying because we run off Windows 97.
So I saw that. Was that fake? It made me laugh.
I think it had to be fake. You can't be running off end of life operating system.
I was like, if that's true, I was like, that's even worse. Because if that is true, like they should have had problems long before now. Like now that I think about it, like I just saw the headline and laughed, right? I didn't read the article and I was like, come on now. But I think part of me just didn't believe it. I was like, that can't be true. But it could be, right? Like it's one of those things where it very well could have been. But yeah, no, this one, it had a lot of fallout for this, man. Like, and the reason for it was for their Falcon sensor servers. So the name is proprietary. It's trademarked to CrowdStrike, but what it is, it's a process where they integrate a lot of stuff when it comes to like your virus protection, and things of that nature, right? And so because of that, that's why it has such far-reaching effects, right? So, like, it's their next-generation antivirus, their endpoint detection and response, cyber threat intelligence, managed threat hunting capabilities, and security hygiene are all wrapped up into this one thing, right? And they're not the only ones that do that, right? Because, like, Trellix kind of does the same thing too. It used to be McAfee, it's Trellix now. Does the same thing, right? So it's not unheard of for people to roll up everything and not have as many point products when it comes to management, like software management and things like that. But this is one of those where it was just so far-reaching, man, and it was so crazy. And like this was a hit for CrowdStrike, and they mentioned in the article, and Daniel, I'll let you hit some of this up, but like they mentioned in the article about how their stock has fallen and stuff like that, and it's a
time
bad
to buy.
Yeah. That, right?
It's
right?
time to buy at the cheap.
You get it low, right? Sell high, right? That's what they try to tell you to do. But Daniel, what's your thoughts on this, man?
No, definitely. I wore my blue shirt today for all the blue screens out there and these poor people that are just trying to go into work. All the IT and side people go into work, like getting calls after hours and stuff like that, just embracing the suck, hats off to them because this was a rough one, right? So I guess, so this, for me, I coined the term, this is going to be known as the update heard around the world because I've never thought of an update that had this like kind of reach and effects. This is kind of crazy.
You just named the title of that is perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't have to think. That's perfect.
Yeah. So literally when I was reading through these two articles that you sent over, I was like, this is the update heard around the world because this is crazy. No software update. You've heard of worms, early onset internet worms that have like crashed the internet because the knowledge of how to fight these things and then the hackers like just being creative and seeing what they can do would damage the internet, right? Like, but that's like back in the, 80s, before 80s, like earlier onset. But, I guess story time, jumping topic here. So in my last job, right, I was hired as an ISM. And, in the military and the DoD, like the career fields and like the job titles are kind of very segregated. Here in that job, obviously, when you get hired in the private industry, they want you to do like 4 or 5 hats, right? So I was ISM, but I was an IT manager. So we were building up this network for this company and they were running another network at the same time. Cyber grooming and IT grooming for this organization wasn't at its most mature. So the engineers dictated a lot because it was an operational environment. So the engineers would do updates for this proprietary software that they would do their testing for. And the ISO at the time really didn't groom them to say, hey, we're doing updates. You got to run it by me. You just can't push it because it can break things. So within my first month, they created 2 updates for the software that they use internally. And they literally bricked the software that they use in production, but it would brick it not in the beginning of their cycles. And they would do testing cycles like 12, 16 hours. It'd be like hour 10. And it would brick the software and they would lose the whole night's worth of testing. And estimatedly, that was like from like $100,000 to $300,000 worth of damage because, you lose the testing cycles, you push back delivery dates for the contracts, like all these kind of things, all these ramifications. So, like in the beginning, I sat the lead engineer down. I said, hey, man, you literally cannot do this anymore because you're costing us way too much money. You're pushing back your own work. What we wound up doing is we took one test environment, just the same operational environment, and to one environment would push the updates, test for a whole week, just to make sure at some point in the testing, if there was anything that didn't show up the first couple of days or the first couple of hours, we could see and then pivot, but it wouldn't be in the whole area, like in the whole production environment, right?
Definitely.
And now I don't know, like obviously they have a lot more smarter people than me in CrowdStrike, but when in the article, it says that they could not mimic these effects in testing. And I find it really hard to believe, right?
Yep.
Because the major effect of this bug was that it creates 100% CPU utilization when it goes into effect. And that's what's causing the blue screens to like the systems to crash so hard. When they boot up, they don't have enough like memory and CPU to connect to the internet to then pull the good update, right? So I don't know. Like I feel like Ryan, you spoke in the last Ask a CSSP. You guys were talking about that she's the guest or the co-host. I forgot her name. I'm so sorry.
Right, Elizabeth Stevens from DBS Cyber.
Yeah, she made a really good point where she thinks it was like a mistaken copy and paste or something in how the patch was executed. So story time number 2, when we worked together in an area, we controlled the proxies, right? So there was a very manual update to doing the proxies, the white and black lists, which involved copying and pasting, which, okay, if it's a white list, and you don't copy the whole thing over, maybe someone can get to a website that they're not supposed to, or a website can get into, or something like that. But since it was text files, if you didn't look how you're copying pasting and you deleted the header, the proxies would sit in front or in back of the firewall. And if you deleted the header, the traffic wouldn't know where to route. So you'd literally take down a whole enterprise. Happened a lot. Happened more than it should have. And we used to work shift work. And I remember one too many times.
Keep the in-house stuff in-house, man.
No.
The statute of limitations has to be up on that. It's been like 10 years.
Yes, over 15 years. But it was a learning curve, right? It was some of the more junior people. It was a very easy fix. It would take like 1 or 2 minutes. But for 1 or 2 minutes, you bring down the enterprise, right? Goes unnoticed, right? Because there's other checks and balances in place to make sure the operations continue. But she brings up a really good point. The gravity and extension of this update, how it took down so much. I think there's a bigger ripple effect there. Obviously, we're not going to hear the dirty laundry in these articles, but through the analysis, it's got to be something like that where something wasn't checked or something was pushed in a way that caused a domino effect that wasn't foreseen. I believe that more than they couldn't mimic the update in their testing environment. So those are my thoughts, Ryan. Go ahead.
So real quick, Ryan, before you go, so it's going to be a question to both of you, right? So do you think, because they kind of bring this up a little bit in the article, do you think it is an over-reliance on cloud environments that kind of leads to this type of thing happening, right? Because I know I've said it before on here, like the cloud is just somebody else's computer. That's all it is, right? People want to talk about the cloud, like it's so great, this, that, and the third, but it's just more computers.
No, I think you alluded to it better before, like the way CrowdStrike operates, and especially these EDR and these more robust platform as services or software as services, they tend to roll more than one thing into an offering, right? Yeah. So that way they could either charge more to give more services, right? But then you have codependencies. I think that's what is the issue more so than the cloud platform. Unfortunately, CrowdStrike ties into Microsoft and then they service so much. So that's why it was so widespread.
Yeah.
I think that more so than just it being a cloud platform per se. But what do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I don't think it's an over reliance. I think it's just people don't understand how fragile the internet is, right? Like you said, it's just somebody else's computer, right? Like it's just a bunch of Band-Aids, string, tape. Like our Web 2.0 is badly built. And this just goes to show you how reliant it is on a bunch of different components, a bunch of different bricks, so to speak. And we just have to, in my opinion, in the future, it needs to be rebuilt. There should be Web 3.0, Web 3.5, whatever, should be a separate World Wide Web that's built upon some other foundation or standard, as opposed to like what we've been doing is just putting Band-Aids on things for decades. Will that ever happen? Probably not. The internet will continually be built on top of the old foundation, which was not great because we didn't expect for it to be this. Like when ARPANET was being built, they didn't expect for it to be what it is today. They couldn't envision it. And it's just really, and it's just what it is. People just don't understand it. They think like you said, they think the cloud is something supernatural. Like, no, it's just a bunch of really badly built structures.
Big servers.
Yeah. Like, it's nothing we can really do about it unless we rebuild, which I just don't think, like, maybe this will push us in that direction, but it doesn't. I don't think anything will be done until it has to be done, and it doesn't. It doesn't have to be rebuilt. It just works.
Is this that catalyst? Let me ask you that.
Not yet. I think it'll have to be something bigger.
It would have to be something bigger. Which is scary, right? Because this is pretty widespread and
right. This is
really,
This is inconvenient. This is not total devastation.
Yeah. Well. So here's the thing. So you say it's not total devastation, right? But like, what's to say next week we might be back here and we'll be talking about how, like, while this was happening, who knows what people who had ill intentions went out there and took advantage of, right?
Oh, they're doing it right now.
Things that it was affected. Exactly.
Yeah, they're doing it right now, which is crazy to me. Before I jump in, so please like, share, subscribe. We're trying to hit 500 subs. We're danger close. We're very close to hitting nice. I think we're like 40 short or whatever. We can get that today. Go ahead. It's like I feel like a telethon. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And then we're trying to hit 1,000 by the end of the year. And then with that being said, I did a special episode with Elizabeth Stevens from DBS Cyber. So living legend, aviation, as well as she's been doing a lot of great things. She has a publication coming out. I got too many mice right now. Hold on. So her publication coming out is Building a Resilient Digital Future, a comprehensive guide to cyber risk monitoring. So when this happened, it was like, oh yeah, we got to talk about this in somewhat real time. So we talked about it Friday evening, but I couldn't get the episode out until Saturday afternoon, evening, just because I'm one man army. It takes a lot to get a show out pretty fast. But definitely check that one out. We do talk extensively about just her perspective, especially coming from her mindset and the way that her business is structured, and then just how it really makes sense to the conversation. So definitely check that one out. It's a special Ask a CISSP cross DBS Cyber episode. So it's already out there in the interwebs, and it's doing pretty good. It's tracking pretty well. With that being said, so for this episode, I want to bring up two things. So thing number one, yes, the internet is very fragile and janky. I don't want to be an apologist for, right? But I think between CrowdStrike and Microsoft, I don't think people understand that the blue screen of death, which BSOD, I've never heard the acronym before. I know what blue screen of death is, but I kept seeing it everywhere. I was like, what is BSOD? I felt dumb. I didn't want to ask the question. And then when I Googled it, I was like, duh. But it's a feature, not a flaw. Like, it worked. Like, as opposed to pushing a bad patch, it shut down systems, and it should. Yep. So yes, it does suck. But at the end of the day, Microsoft did their job, right? The operating system saw that there was a bad patch, and it shut everything down. Because just think if it was nefarious, just think if it was a bad actor that had pushed something through the supply chain, right? Which could still happen because everything is on fire right now. But had that been the lead and it had been a bad actor, we would want this to happen before something else, planes start dropping out the sky, Skynet takes over type situation. So it did its job, but people are not going to feel that way. People are going to just be pissed. You know what I mean? Like, they're stuck in airports. They can't buy things. Like, it makes people angry, but Microsoft did its job. You going to say, Chad?
So let me ask you this then. So yes, that's very true, right? It did do its job, but from the point of, you don't want to be an apologist, but from the point of CrowdStrike, like I said, I think they should have done better testing. There should have been better quality control and how they did it. The environment they tested in should have been more realistic to what they are off to their customers, right? Now, CrowdStrike, I mentioned this about how, prices falling and this, that, and the third. I think it was something along the lines of, I'm not looking at the article now, but like $16 billion or something like that. Is their net worth has dropped? Is that right? It was like 20%, the stock's down 20% or something like that.
31%.
31%?
31%.
Oh, I was way off. Okay. Oh, yeah. No, I know it dropped.
Because they're not going anywhere. So.
Yeah. It was. I checked myself, though. I think it's 31%. I thought it was a lot. It was in tune to like $16 billion. Do you think CrowdStrike recovers from this? Let me ask you that. Do you think people care enough? Do you think people care enough to get to the bottom of it to know that it was CrowdStrike, or are they just like, everything's back to normal again, I'm good, do whatever? 20%. 20%.
Okay, it was 20%. Yeah.
So I think that it will be a rough year. Like, so the rest of the year will be rough for CrowdStrike because their name is now, like, their name is now, what do they call it when it's a household name or whatever?
Infamous. It's infamous. What
people now know it only because they're so mad because of all the things that happen. Yeah. But those people might not be the people who matter to them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, yes, they've lost public trust and the branding has been slightly tarnished. But as we know, working in Department of Defense, you just rebrand, right? They just get a new name, a new moniker, and no one will ever know. Like, not the people who aren't their current, I keep want to say constituents, but they're not politicians, right? Like, they're current shareholders. There it is. Yeah, they'll care, but they'll care because they're able to buy low and, like you said, sell high when the stock starts to rise again. And they just they might even need to change branding, right? Like, the investigation could, like, no one's going to be sticking around to find out about the investigation except for us. You know what I mean? The common person is like, man, like, things work again. I don't care. So I think they'll be fine, but I think that they are leaving wiggle room for somebody else to get a little bit more of the pie, so to speak, right?
The share.
There's going to be a land grab. Yeah. Because they're going to have to testify. Like, it's going to happen. Like, if you bring planes down, right? Planes have to be grounded. You have to go talk to Congress. Yeah. So there'll be an investigation, and then there'll be someone from Microsoft or CrowdStrike or both testifying in front of Congress. Again, a very small portion of people will check it out or care. And then this might leave the door open for someone to come, like you said, get a little bit more of a share in it, because you don't want to have a single point of failure.
Microsoft might get out scot-free on this, though, if I'm being honest.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, I realize
because they did a job.
They're like, we relied on them to perform a job for us, right? You know what I mean? Like, so, I don't know.
Yeah. No,
it would be third-party risk management. Like, did you do your due diligence? They'll run through the checklist and like, hey, we did this, we did this, we did this. And now we have a new checkbox that we have to that has to be checked, and that's pretty much it for Microsoft. CrowdStrike will have to
Microsoft,
go an apology tour.
They went above and beyond. They released a KV article on how to like go into the system and recommendations. Hardline connect to the internet, don't do Wi-Fi, delete this file. Walk from point 1 to point 10. How to remove this. Even the most untechnical person could kind of fall through it, right? So I think they're going to be fine. CrowdStrike, we'll see. It shows how widespread their EDR system and their cloud solution is, how many things are brought down. So they're already one of the major stockholders in cybersecurity. They're one of the go-to also, in conjunction with like Median and all these other companies that go and coordinate with the government whenever there is like a ransomware or these kind of things. CrowdStrike is one of the companies that the government goes to seek, professional level, it'll be interesting to see if they lose some of that trust, especially with the government or with some of their contracts and kind of their dealings, or it will just be the stock price that plummets and then they'll rebound from this, a couple months from now.
Yeah, I think they'll see the rebound. If they don't see the rebound, then it'll be a rebranding, but they're not going anywhere. They're too entrenched. But again, they may have given space for someone to get a little bit more of a share, so as a consumer, I like competition because it breeds better products. However, as working for big organizations like the Department of Defense, when you have too many different people within the system, it causes complications because of training and just like it's a headache on technicians and administrators. So I get both sides of it, but at the end of the day, we can't let this happen again. But it is a wake up call. Like, had this been a bad actor, like now we have a blueprint. Like Elizabeth said, we've had the ultimate tabletop. Now we know what this looks like if this were to happen in like a supply chain attack or a commoditization attack or something like that. We know how widespread it could be and how vulnerable we are. So I think that this is allowing everybody to run their checklists. Everybody had a real time, like low threat so far. Like I know that it did impact overseas hospitals pretty heavily. Like Ireland had like 2/3 of their general practices were impacted. So I don't know if there was any, I don't want to say fatalities, but any casualties, right? So that could be somebody who's hurt or killed because of it. So that's more fallout to be seen. But for the most part, it seems that emergency services were restored. I heard like Alaska was down because of it.
Alaska.
Wow. And that's crazy because I've lived there. Like you need emergency services because there's a lot of crazy wildlife. There's a lot of crazy people. So I think we'll see the ripple effect. We'll see what happens days or weeks after. I'm a little nervous about the whole FAA thing because I do have a trip coming up. So hopefully they get their stuff together before I'm ready to fly out. So there are some implications, some things that we'll have to see throughout the weeks. However, I think we got away scot-free on this one. Not scot-free, but we got a free lesson. It wasn't like a Revel or a Lockbit or someone like that. This was we shot ourselves in the foot. So
but that's because it wasn't a cyber incident, right? So that's kind of like kind of scary side of it. So there's a movie that came out not too long ago on Netflix that has Julia Roberts.
Oh, Leave the World Behind.
Marsha. Yeah.
So I thought about it as soon as this happened. Yep.
So, and also like for people that like to read, there's a book. It's kind of old. It's called This Is How They Tell Me the World Is Going to End. And it's all about cyber warfare. And it's very much like that movie. So it's kind of a scary thought, not to leave the listeners with this last thought, but I think we're okay in this incident because it really is just more like an IT related mess up and screw up, right?
Yeah.
But this, like you said, is a perfect tabletop, and it shows that if you can get something that's a cyber attack that can initiate something like this, that's this widespread, it doesn't really need to break in, steal information, change information, just halt at the lowest level and be as widespread. that would be a very, very messy recipe. So
yeah, you're completely right. So I want to leave people with one last thought, because I have to give everybody their flowers, right? There's a guy named Vincent Filibustier. Like, it looks like filibuster to me, but he's a French gentleman, right? When this happened, out like maybe minutes or hours or whatever, he took advantage of it. He made the meme that went around the world. So he posted a picture of himself in front of the CrowdStrike, I don't know, visage, I guess you would say. Like, he's in the CrowdStrike offices, quote unquote. And he says, just push the little patch, taking the afternoon off. And then like 40 minutes later, he says something like, I was fired. Like, this is truly, what did he say? He said something like, unfair, I was fired, or something like that. And like the internet went off. Like, yeah, last time I checked, it was like 26 point something million. This guy does this professionally. So his whole thing is, if you go to his Twitter, so he's a trainer and teacher in digital citizenship, critical thinking, specialized in fake news and social networks, OSINT AI digital consultant. So he then goes into a step-by-step of how he made it, right? So if you follow his thread, he shows how he made the infamous picture, which is really just photoshopped with AI generation. He shows all the mistakes in it. Like, he was unable to crop certain things, so it looks kind of like he has a horn or a piece of hair sticking out his head. His hand is small, like a toddler's hand, because he has AI to make it. And he has all these things, all these tells, which would show you that this is made up, this is fake news. And then he goes in to kind of like teach a lesson. So hopefully people learn from this, not to necessarily trust what you see. It's like with the Southwest meme and all those other things, but also like it also goes to show how this could be used for nefarious reasons, right? For like fake news or things of that nature. So he taught a master class while this was happening. And I hope that sunk into people, because now all the bad guys have flooded in since this happened to try to steal people's information, right? There's a bunch of fake registered domains for CrowdStrike. People are trying to collect credentials and things like that. Like, bad guys don't take the day off. But he was ahead of it. Like, he was showing how like you can easily confuse people. And he was like going through the list of why people would fall for it. Like, everybody wants a villain. Everybody wants to believe in certain things. He was in the midst of it. And he taught a pretty good clinic on fake news. So gotta get his due. And like, he has, how many followers does he have now? He has 79,000 followers on Twitter now because of it.
Nice.
So I give it up to the guy. He did a good job. But yeah, just be careful out there, because people are going to try to use this to their advantage. Be careful of the articles you read. Only go to the sources. So Microsoft did release instructions. Go to their website. Don't go to a third party. Don't trust it. And then just, if you have a flight scheduled, or if you're, I don't know. I can't think of all the nefarious ways they could use this against you, but just go to the source for everything. Like, don't click on links. Like, just be careful what's in your inbox. Be careful if you get a text message. They're definitely going to try to take advantage of this for weeks to come. So there it is. So this is a very long Monday episode. So, but hey, like you said, it was the patch heard around the world. So I'm definitely going to title it like that. That is a good name for it. I appreciate that. That'll be the name of the article as well. So definitely continue to tune in. Monday and Tuesday are topics. Wednesday, discussion. Thursdays, ask us. And then Fridays, everything else. So movies, books, games, all that good stuff. And there is a bonus episode out there. So definitely check out my episode with Elizabeth Stevens. She is the CEO of DBS Cyber. Hit up all the websites that go by our name. We are the other side of the firewall. It could also be the other side of the FW, or ask a CISSP. You can find me personally. I'm on pretty much every social media platform under RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. And you can find Daniel on LinkedIn by his name, Daniel Acevedo. Stay safe, stay secure.